ERC, quality service since 1972. Repairing TVs, console stereos, electronic musical instruments, pinball machines, arcade games, and more. Call 836-0454.
This is the Weather Xtreme video from ABC 3340. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters with you for this Saturday edition. And let's start off. We've got a lot of weather, especially in the tropics, but let's start off with some Skycam images. Here's the Demopolis Skycam with kind of an interesting reflection of the moon there on a rather hazy morning, and it looks like that's going to continue. Decatur, we're looking over the bridge there over the Tennessee River, and certainly hazy up there as well. And then how about another shot of the moon as we look at the Clanton image from central Alabama. So certainly an interesting, hot, hazy day across central Alabama with some air quality issues with some code orange and code red alerts for ozone and particulate pollution for today. Surface map shows one of the interesting things we have to deal with is the little tropical depression just off the South Carolina coast. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. We've got a stationary front draped across the northern interior of the United States that's going to be the focus for severe weather for the next several days. And here's the satellite water vapor imagery with the 500 millibar pattern, and at least for the time being, we're in a bit of a flat flow across the southern interior of the United States, but it looks like that's going to be changing this week. Here is the temperatures for this morning at 5 a.m. across the across the whole United States, and certainly rather warm on this July morning. And here we are for temperatures across central Alabama. You can see they're ranging from the lower 60s across the northeast part of the state to the lower 70s across the southern part of the state. Now let's get to the tropics, and we've got some interesting areas to watch. We've got a lot of clouds along the ITCZ off the African coast. We got Bertha, who can't seem to just give up the ghost. She's still a hurricane, imagine that. We've got the one in the Caribbean, and then we've got the tropical depression. So let's take them one at a time. Here's a close-up visible image of Bertha, still looking pretty good even though she's pretty far north. Here's Bertha's track, and certainly not any threat to land right now, but getting very far north. Now here's the tropical Depression 3 off the South Carolina coast. Very hard to find the center. Looks like the track of that's going to take it pretty much along the coastline past Cape Hatteras and the North Carolina Outer Banks before getting out to sea, at least according to the general model output. Here's the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and certainly projected to become a tropical storm, at least marginal. Here's the radar for that, and again, it is very difficult to find a center. It does look like the center is off the South Carolina coast. All right, now let's move into the Caribbean. Here's the IR infrared image for that cluster of storms, and still looking pretty tough down there with a lot of convection, but still not very well organized. And here's the model plot. Certainly looks like a storm that could get into the Gulf of Mexico, especially the western Gulf. And what's shear look like? Well, looking at the overall shear, it doesn't look terribly bad, so it looks like there is still some potential for that area to become a tropical storm, or at least to become a depression. QPF-wise, not forecasting a great deal of rain on the order of a quarter to a half inch over the next 5 days. Severe weather-wise, going to be confined primarily along that stationary front for the next several days. Here's day 1. Not much changes on day 2, and very little changes on day 3, even though it settles just a little further south, getting into and near the Ohio River Valley. All right, here's the 06Z GFS model run, and we'll run through these pretty quickly. This is for Sunday. And we can see that large ridge over the western part of the country and a general troughiness over the eastern part of the country. And, of course, that translates to relatively dry weather. And I think we're going to stay dry through Monday, and then we begin to see moisture pick up. Here comes that trough that I mentioned, the 594 height contour over the western part of the country, keeping them pretty hot, the southwestern part of the United States. By Tuesday, that troughiness is becoming a lot more pronounced, and that's going to be a real issue as to what might happen as that tropical system gets up into the Gulf, even if it's not a depression or a storm. it could still bring a great deal of moisture from Louisiana all the way back into the South Texas area. Now, on Wednesday, the GFS, of course, is forecasting it to come up into the South Texas area, and we can see a lot of moisture with kind of a front coming in from the north, that stationary front kind of settling down towards the southern half of the Ohio River Valley. By Thursday, the trough is beginning over the eastern half of the country, is beginning to pull out to the northeast. But what's it doing? It's leaving all that moisture behind. So it does look like as we get into the latter part of the week, looks like the chances for showers should be a lot higher. On Friday, the ridge builds in a little bit stronger, and you can see both a 594 height contour center over northeast Tennessee and eastern Kentucky, as well as one over Colorado and New Mexico. By Saturday, it kind of congeals a little bit, and we're on the eastern side of this ridge, so if you got to be on one side or the other, that's probably the best one. Looks like the East Coast trough does sharpen up just a bit on Sunday, but still it's leaving a lot of tropical moisture. So it certainly looks like we're going to have a period of wetter weather towards the latter part of July. Now, here's the, I'm going to just show for the voodoo country here. Here's the 1st of August, and still showing some troughiness across the northern tier of the United States, but rather flat ridge across our area, and not much change in that, just a lot of moisture in place, a lot of humidity, and the results are that we can see scattered showers. Certainly appreciate you tuning in to the Weather Xtreme video. I'll try to have the next one posted tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock or so. Hope that you have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. God bless.
Weather.